when x is equal to 4. Now we're going to do one more example. So we're going to go do another example. The example over here is going to be x squared minus 6x is equal to 0. So what we're going to do is we're going to graph it first. We're going to set it equal to y again so we can graph it and find everything. So what we're going to do first is we're going to look for the axis of symmetry. This seems like something that we can do here. Remember, all these tools, the axis of symmetry, the y-intercept, and finding another point if you can, you can determine which ones you want to do. There is no straight answer on how to do some of this stuff at times. We know that this, remember to bring the sign with it. This is my B, and this imaginary one, this one that's not here is technically my A. Okay, so technically there is a 1 in front of this coefficient. This coefficient is going to be 1. Now remember, we did this axis of symmetry because that's our first thing. We can find the vertex after we find the axis of symmetry. So we're going to set x is equal to negative b over 2a. Where in this case it's going to be negative times a negative 6 all over 2 times 1, which is equal to 3. Once we have that taken care of, we are going to find the vertex. The vertex is we take the x-axis, the x value, and we plug it back in to find y. 3 squared minus 6 times 3 is equal to negative 9. So I'm going to go ahead and graph this now. I'm going to head to start the graph right now. So we know this is going to go facing what? Since this is a positive value, we know that this graph is going to go facing upwards. Now, remember, on your graph, you are going to label your graphs. Here's 3. Okay. We're going to go down to 9, so we can label it however we want to. This is negative 9, negative 6, negative 3. We can go by 3s. It's still proportional, so it should be fine. There's my first point. Now, from here, there's something you can determine to try and use any type of thing you want. You want to try and plug in points, you can. Here, let's see if we can actually use the y-intercept. So we're going to try and graph the y-intercept first. Okay, so we know x is going to be equal to 0. So let's find out what y is going to be. 0 squared minus 6, 0 is equal to 0. So my y-intercept is going to be 0 at 0, 0. So we labeled that on my graph. Now remember, when we said the axis of symmetry up here, that means there's an invisible line that cuts down this point. So if we fold this paper in half, there should be another point that's exactly the same on this side. So this is where you have to come and decide for yourself on how to approach this problem. So over here, if we look at it, there's got to be another point on this right side that's going to be exactly on this left side. So let's count. 1, 2, 3. Again, let me count again. This is 1, 2, 3. So it's 3 spaces to the left, which means we're going to try and do 3 spaces to the right. 1, 2, 3. So 3, 4, 5, 6. So that means at this point we are going to try and use 6 and see if we can get another number. Now again, let me emphasize this to you one more time. The reason why I picked 6 is because of the axis of symmetry. Because of this axis of symmetry, we know that there is another point equal distance to each side of the axis of symmetry that should give us the same value. So we are going to try and find this third point. Find another point. Again, this requires you to come up with something that you feel that will help us from the information that we've had before. And so this time we're going to try 6. You can try other numbers if you want to get to 6, or you can try numbers past 6. So let us find out what this is. Y is equal to 6 squared minus 6 times 6. So 36 minus 36 is going to give us 0. So yes, there is another point right here at 6, 0. So when we're looking for solutions, we're looking for everything on the x-intercept. So in this case, when I graph this, still have to graph it. You still have to graph it. We know that we have 2 solutions here. Our solutions is going to be x is equal to 0 and 6, or you can write it as 0, 6 in set builder notation for some in anybody's cases. But that's exactly how you find it. Notice how I found the axis of symmetry, gave us a general idea of what point will it be, found the y-intercept because it seems like it's going to cross the y-intercept judging by the graph. Next thing you know, from here we can find the distance of the left side, which means it should be the same distance on the right side, and that's how you get the third point. And from there you can approximate your graph. And that is pretty much the conclusion of section 2.